In ancient times, when the days grew shorter, people got anxious. Maybe the sun would abandon them. And so to encourage the light to remain or come back, they would have bonfires and candles and things. That is, light in the darkness. Metaphorically, we push back our fears, our sorrows. We try to have joy in the moments of darkness. It's complicated. It's a balance. The trick is to try to integrate the two, honor all the aspects of the seasons. The Celtic people burned Yule logs that were supposed to go on for 12 days. Later that became the 12 days of Christmas. What is this about the fire? Well, solar worship was the earlier version of pretty much all religion. This is divine light. We are seeking something more than warmth and vision. We're seeking inspiration. Also the trees. The Egyptians brought in small palm trees and decorated them. But the Romans had fir trees. It's the northern Germanic peoples that really got into the tree worship. They would, in fact, build their villages. They'd have to clear trees because everything was forest up there. So you'd make some space to put up your houses. They would leave one particularly impressive tree up, the mother tree, and build the village around it. Then in the winter ceremonies, they would come out and pay homage to this sign of life, this God, this nature image that could be seen and touched and respected. Then when it got really, really cold, and it was pretty much too big a challenge to dance around the tree, they'd take a branch and make a wreath and take that inside, the tradition of bringing some greenery inside. Finally, a tradition of bringing small trees became so popular that they had a law, this was in 1561, that you couldn't bring a tree in that was more than 8 shoes in height. So you could bring a little tree in, but they didn't want to lose their well, this is way more than 8 shoes in height, but we're not in Germany, what the heck. The others, pardon?
It's not real.
Oh, that too, yeah, okay, so it came in from the plastic factory. Anyway, I didn't know it wasn't real. It looks very real, Jerry. The other symbolism of the tree is that it's an evergreen. It's something that stays green through the winter, that it is life against death. It gives us hope. Also, a tree represents the 3 levels. It reaches up to the heavens. We can see it and decorate it here, and then if it's a real tree, it has roots that go down, down, down into the mysteries. The Romans adorned trees with shiny trinkets and replicas of Bacchus in his role as fertility god. This is keeping life going. The Druids tied fruit and candles to evergreen branches, the eternal light of Baldur, the sun god. Christmas gets bigger and bigger. Do you remember when Halloween was like its own thing and there weren't like posters of Santa up there telling you to buy and prepare ahead? I miss that, okay. Some of the meanings behind our modern Christian holiday image, like Santa Claus. Okay, Santa Claus is from St. Nicholas. He was a Greek bishop. As a boy, St. Nicholas was considered incredibly generous. He would help all the poor kids in the neighborhood, sometimes saving their life. They didn't have enough food. Some lived in sort of basement rooms, and there'd be a little window, and he'd throw a coin in, and this would buy them food for a week. The coin would sometimes land in shoes that were drying by the fire. And our tradition of having socks hanging to put gifts in comes from that story. Santa Claus is a distortion of the Greek, the Dutch pronunciation of St. Nicholas. Sinterklaas or Sint Niklaas got shortened to Sinterklaas, and then when it got over to America, it got distorted into Santa Claus. So the same story, although it along the way mingled with a Celtic divinity called the Holly King. This was a divine nature force in winter that was worshipped. They say there are 3 stages of man. When he begins, he believes in Santa Claus. Then later he does not believe in Santa Claus. And then later he is Santa Claus. And there's the cold. it's cool out there. I know we're in California and there aren't snow drifts, but it's cold. We put on our garments. Well, first of all, we have thin blood. We're not used to any cold. I have relatives in other parts of the country. When I visited the Cleveland area in the middle of winter one time for Christmas, I couldn't believe people lived like that. I had a very long and very warm coat, and I had warm shoes, but there was a section of leg in between that just had regular old Levi's. It's like knives. I think they're wearing more layers, and they're using thicker blood. Anyway, the challenge is to get through things. There is a psychiatric disorder called seasonal affective, SAD, seasonal affective disorder. People that get incredibly depressed when the days are shorter, not enough light. And one of the treatments is to have a big light box and be around it to get more. We need the light for our well-being. In theological terms, some say we're living in the time between the gods, that there were gods, which is to say what we call mythology, but believed as real, that pretty much everyone in a community agreed to. Well, that isn't the way it is now. We have different gods, and then some people that don't believe in gods, and maybe someday there will be something like that again, but we're not there now. We're in the winter, and maybe we can make it to the time when gods return, or maybe they don't. And we have not only sacred holidays and other kinds of recognition of the season. There are office parties, for better or worse. A great opportunity to get reacquainted with somebody you haven't seen for 20 minutes. Phyllis Diller said, what I don't like about office parties is the next day, looking for a new job. And we have expectations of the season, maybe hope for something. In that poem by Perry Longo, her stepson would really have liked to have his original mother back. I mean, she was all fine as a stepmother, but not what he really wanted. Jimmy Kibble says, this is that special time of year when your whole family gathers together in one place to look at their cell phones. There's a remarkable breakdown of taste and intelligence at this season. Mature, responsible grown men wear neckties made of holly leaves and drink alcoholic beverages with raw egg yolks and cottage cheese in it. There's a problem at office parties. There's a problem at family parties of drinking at holiday times, and there's more danger on the freeways. Is that good spirits, or is that not being very good at handling complicated feelings? Here's a season when the family gathers once a year, only to discover that once a year is too often. It's mixed. I like to have fun at the expense of this. What I really am doing by telling jokes about it is acknowledging that there are complicated feelings, and there are some people that aren't there, and we're missing them, and so it's an occasion for sadness. I would like to honor the ghosts that aren't there, and the yearning for whatever once was, or maybe it never really was. We're yearning for something, and I would respect that, and avoid the drink. Louis C.K. is a big comic. One thing I learned from drinking is that if you ever go Christmas caroling, you should go with a group of people, and also it's better to do that in December. So how do I suggest we cope with these complicated feelings? The way Zorba did. Zorba was a Dionysian figure, a trickster, and a marvelous story, and when things got rough, Zorba would dance, and Kevin played the wonderful music to it. We almost wanted to get up and dance to that. You could hardly resist. The story is really about Basil. He's the one on a journey. He's half Greek, but grew up in London, so he's more British than Greek. But there's some land that his father left him, and he's there to claim the land and see if he can get the mine going. There was a coal mine on the land that was worth something. And on the way, it's interesting, when you're traveling somewhere, you'll meet people in train stations. This was in the little cafe in the port and near Athens to go down to Crete where this land is. And some old guy starts talking to him and he's lively, and he says, "Hire me, boss. I can cook. I'm a good cook. I don't need a cook, but I'm going to try to start this mine. You know anything? I know all about mining." And apparently he does. And this is based on a real character that the author knew, who was in fact a miner and a very colorful figure. This is not only an interesting story about two different personality types, a rather reserved, rather British, slightly depressed, overly controlled Basil, and wild, colorful, full of life Zorba. I am suggesting we have these two sides, and that these two sides will go to Christmas parties. And we can plan. Remember Perry's poem about having everything in its place, every memory hanging where we can reach it? Well, we can manage the holiday, and we can plan, and we can shop, and we can get good things for people. The art of gift giving is almost impossible. You have to read minds. Usually gifts are to the person you were a year or two ago, because that's what people remember, but we move on. The best possible gift is where somebody says, "How did you know?" The best possible gift is about a new emerging interest, but that is mind reading. And sometimes you go to a lot of trouble and you realize from the look and the thank you and that it didn't quite hit the spot. Oh, that is so hard. And once in a while, you get the gold ring. Once in a while, you get it just right. And sometimes somebody who knows you well enough, but that's not even every Christmas. That's certainly not every present. So we go to all this trouble. And, well, the love is real. Okay, the love is real. And the Christmas presents are nice, and some of them are good to have. And some of them are direct to the yard sale. But anyway, Zorba is our vitality. He is a trickster figure that handles difficulty. He does a whole dance because his son died. And he's recreating, he shows Basil what you do when your heart is broken. It's a sad dance, but it's a dance. So you're mingling the joy and the grief, and that helps a little bit. Well, the mine project doesn't go too well. The timbers holding the shafts are rotten and dangerous, so we need new lumber. There is some lumber up on top of the mountain. It belongs to the monastery. Zorba goes and tricks the monks into thinking there was a miracle so that they can get at the trees, and then has to figure out a way to get them down. They don't have big trucks to work with it. He rigs up a wire that he can slide these huge logs down. And the day comes to bring well, it doesn't go well. You may have seen the movie years ago. I just rewatched it. I found it very dated, actually. I remember a few key things held up, and then there were other things going on that I thought, ooh, ouch. But it doesn't go well. The last log, sort of the third log, the first log breaks up, the second log falls into the water, and the third one just pulls the whole contraption down. And the young British Greek fellow, Basil, has lost all his money, and it's a catastrophe. They had some food to celebrate. Well, everybody takes off in a panic, and Zorba come over and said, "Boss, what a catastrophe, eh? Wasn't that the best catastrophe ever? Did you see the monks as they ran?" And he's delighting in it. I mean, the whole thing has gone down. When everything goes wrong, what a joy to test your soul and see if it has endurance and courage. An invisible and all-powerful enemy, some call him God, others the devil, seem to rush upon us to destroy us, but we are not destroyed. That's Zorba's speech. And they sit down and eat the food and drink the wine. And when they're done, his student, his protege, says, "Zorba, can you teach me to dance?" And Zorba says, "Dance?" And he gets up, and nobody's there. Everybody's gone. He starts the steps, and they join arms, and they start dancing in the face of loss. So, action steps. There they are dancing, and it's captivating. We want to get up and dance with them. Now, I'm not just talking about moving our bones and getting out and doing some steps to the music. I'm talking about a metaphor here. To find, well, it's good. Move, in whatever ways you can, get the mind-body thing going there, and the flesh helps the spirit. But to dance in our imagination, to think of ways to find hope when there isn't a lot of hope, to find something funny when it's not all that funny. We need to be able to shake things off sometime, to find ways to dance. So that's the action steps for the morning. First of all, acknowledge that the holidays are emotionally complicated. Look forward to the good parts, but expect whatever. It probably won't be whatever we thought it would be, so it goes. A comment from Garrison Keillor, remember him? A lovely thing about Christmas is that it's compulsory, like a thunderstorm, and we all go through it together. So there is company. Think of a person or two that you can share the mixed feelings with. It's easy to share the joy, and we should do that too. But, I kind of miss my brother. I kind of miss that there's some ghosts around, and their presence is sometimes as vivid as their actual attendance ever was. So see if you can focus on small joys. If there's a good cookie, eat it slowly. We need the pleasure. Value the memories, even the poignant ones. Grief is part of loving. Grief is a relationship. It's being connected to somebody. And I don't personally believe in closure. I think the big ones stay with us and should. We have a lot of heart there. And finally, I already said it a little bit, treasure the yearning. It is our longing for meaning, for a radiant life, for a deeper experience of the journey. And it's an elusive thing. Whatever we're yearning for shifts and changes and disappears, and then we glimpse it again and move toward it. But the yearning itself is a kind of mystical experience. It has its own reward. In closing, a little quote here, Christmas. It's the only religious holiday that is also a federal holiday. That way, believers can go to their services, and everyone else can sit at home and reflect on the true meaning of the separation of church and state. My greeting is, have a cool Yule.